Macri here in St. Paul. You are part of the whole Occupy movement. I would like first to ask you how it feels to be here. You have already 1 or 2 months here? 3 months. Excellent. How it feels for you to be here?
It feels absolutely excellent. The sense of community that we've got going on here is an example. Do you know what I mean? It really should be an example because everyone gets on really well. Everyone works together in harmony. Do you know what I mean? It's the sense of achievement that you get from being here is really good. People make it better. That's it.
That's excellent. One other thing I want to ask you. We've been witness to terrible stuff of rioting with police, protesters, and more generally we all saw what happened in Tottenham here last summer.
From Tottenham,
so that's great because definitely
something I can comment on. You know, I was there. That started off as a peaceful protest. About 50 people outside the police station. They were there all day. They never got any answers. You know, the police just ignored them, and then when the police did come out, they weren't very nice about things, to say the least. So that was how it escalated into such a state that it did, you know, but it was because of the animosity towards the police and for years how they were treating, you know, a bunch of people. Racism and classism, do you know what I mean, are issues that still we have to deal with in this society, do you know what I mean, and police are someone we have to deal with in that manner, so I just think a lot of it was not justified, what happened at the riots, but the reason behind the people that were involved in the riots, it goes a lot deeper than just wanting the free television. And I think people have to understand that, especially in Tottenham. You know, I can't speak so much for the rest of Britain when it escalated, but you know, I was there, that's where I live. So I think people, it's not just a TV, people were out for them, you know, it was an answer, it was how can injustices in a system like this carry on going. I think it's something crazy in the last 10 years in this country, 350 deaths in police custody and not a single person has been charged. You know, so
it's really crazy rates, indeed. Now we'll jump by what you said in the past to go to the next question. Do you reckon that the strictness of governing by the government here, by the parliament, causes these sorts of incidents of rioting?
I think it helped towards it. Now, if you look at an area like Tottenham, it had just been cut, all its funding cuts, and basically the services that it was receiving funding for was slashed down to 15% of what it originally was. 15%. You know, now that's a lot of things being closed. You know, whether it be help for alcoholics or people with drug problems, help for people with mental health issues, help for youth centres, youth employment. All these things were being cut just for that. You know, and there's a lot of things that the government does that people are not happy with. You know, people have a voice at the end of the day. You know, people will see MPs stealing from expenses, people see bankers looting on a mass scale, you know, it's basically what they're doing, but because they have laws and legislation behind them, which the government has put in place for them to protect them, you know, then people have a right to be angry, and I think the government do sort of cause that thing in that sense of the word. Yeah.
Alright, thank you for that. In conclusion, do you see a change, a solution, a hope for the future?
Really? I don't know. I hope I can see change, you know, that's why I'm here. I'm here because I want to see change. But what everyone has to realise is we don't have to change the minds of the ruling elite, we don't have to change the minds of the banks and everything. It's the people that can make the difference. If the people stop feeding into it, the system breaks down instantly. You know, all the power is with the people, but the people don't realise it. As soon as the people don't comply, the system falls apart. You know, so that's where I believe it's going to go.
we've been experienced the last 2 years lots of social unrest, lots of incidents of social unrest in Midland.
Yeah.
Most of them turned to rioting between protesters and the police. What's your side about that?
I mean, the riots that have happened of late, they happened because of a guy called Mark Duggan, and he ended up getting mistakenly killed by the police. The family then went down to the police station to try and get answers as to what happened, and they were basically ignored by the police for like 48, 72 hours. Nothing was said. During that time, a 16-year-old girl was assaulted by the police, and that sort of ignited the anger that was already in the area. I mean, the anger was there anyway because the local government had shut down like 11 youth centres. So again, you've got high unemployment, you've got the youth who are on the streets, nothing to do, and then you have the police coming in, murdering a man in their community and then not giving answers. So the whole thing sort of ignited that social unrest, you know. And this is what happens when governments don't listen to the people. They're not left with many options.
So there are not many ways to give a text to the actual government to make a change.
I mean, there's been several. I mean, I think there's been quite a number of deaths in police custody over the years, and again, no one's been held accountable. No police officer's been charged. No one's been sacked. None of them have gone to prison. So when the police are inadvertently killing people in the cells, the public are saying that, hang on, if it was me doing the murder, I would be locked up. So why is it that the policemen? No, they may not set out to really kill the person, they may beat them up and they end up dying. But ultimately, we've got to have accountability. You cannot have one law for them and one law for us. That's my viewpoint on the social unrest.
If a strict and the injustice objectively causes the rioting, the death, and all these things that the media are talking about and we are experiencing the last couple of years. What's your state about that?
I believe that a lot of it is down to the reasons we're here, the big banking greed, the corporate greed, the elitist greed. It boils down to greed and money. The people at the top that don't give two tosses about the people at the bottom, you know? The people at the bottom suffer more and more and more every single year, just so the people at the top don't have to relinquish their lavish lifestyles. I mean, every year we see more people, both young and old, that are forced onto the streets through poverty, through not being able to afford to throw a roof over their head. And more people are starting to realise what's going on in the world around them. And I believe that as more people realise this, and they realise the suppression of the people and their voice, then they're getting more and more agitated, because there's only so long you can stand there and shout no more and be ignored. And this is all sprung from that. Obviously the riots were quite a violent process into the thing, but it woke a lot of people up to the fact that this isn't a perfect society we live in. Far from it. I think this is about as far from perfect as you can get. More and more people, like I said, are suffering, and there's no good reason for it.
Well, it happened in Greece, and again there was the unemployment and the political corruptness there, and the people took to the streets. And at that point, the government should have addressed the issue. But again, the government ignores the people and says we're going to bring in more austerity. So again, the people began to get angry, and again, the people were ignored, and the government says, well, actually, we're going to bring in even more austerity. So again, when the people are taken to the streets, the government should be listening. And I mean, what's happened in Greece shows that the governments don't listen, and the police are actually protecting the criminals instead of realising the police. It's like, you're one of us as well. Stop protecting these criminals, and government starts, you're there to uphold the law, whether you're a judge or whether you're a commoner. It makes no difference. And the police need to take a step back and think, well, actually, it's the guys behind us who are the real criminals, because the people are on the streets. But, people only take to the streets as a resort because they're not being listened to, and that should be a signal to the government. I mean, for me, democracy died in this country when we went to the Iraq War. For the first time in decades, we had over 1 million people in Hyde Park saying, don't go to war with Iraq. The government should have said, hang on, we've never had 1 million people in a park to say don't go to war. Hang on, we should listen to these guys. They still went to war. So for me, that was the day democracy was dead in this country. It's like, you're not listening, and now we need to take a more proactive stance. And hence, we're now intense, and we're saying, look, we're not going to go anywhere now. You know, it's like the government says, well, let them protest for 4 or 5 hours in the afternoon. Let them think that they're going to have an influence on our decisions.
Democracy itself comes from the word like the people. Democracy means to be ruled by the people. But it's completely the other way around at the moment. It's the people at the top ruling the people.